Howdy, partners. Welcome to the fifth episode of the podcast. Today's episode's guest is...
The Kid. Billy the Kid.
And what was your legal name?
William H. Boney. But Billy stuck like burrs.
And what is your full name your mother gave you?
Henry McCarty. That's what Ma put on the papers, though life don't pay much mind to such formalities. She called me Henry. Sweet boy, she used to say. And then I'd run off, chasing tumbleweeds and mischief.
So, Billy, when you tell us your story, where to begin?
My life was more than just shootouts and legends. I was shaped by hardship and loss. I suppose we begin with Pa. He was a good man, worked with his hands, tailed blacksmith, fixed wagons, whatever needed doing. Took care of us the best he could in that little house in New York. But cholera don't care if you're decent or strong. It took him away before I could even remember the sound of his voice.
So how did he die from cholera?
The fever hit the whole town like a wildfire. Pa was working in the stables one morning, sweat pouring off him already, helping shoe horses. By evening, he was shaking so bad, Ma wrapped blankets around him 3 deep. Next day, he was vomiting bile and clutching his belly. By nightfall, the doc came, couldn't do nothing, just sat there, said cholera, like it was a judgment from God. Ma tried broth, tried prayers, but the sickness just pulled him under like quicksand.
Do you remember his funeral?
Barely. I was so small. But yeah, it was a cold day. Ground hard as stone, frost on the blades of grass. They lowered him in that pine box, wrapped in the old wool blanket he liked. Ma cried so hard I thought she'd fall in too. The preacher said, ashes to ashes, and I remember wondering why he ain't warm anymore, why he don't hold me up high, and why no one could bring him back.
What feeling did you have on this day and the following days and months and years?
Confusion. Mostly. Why him? Why not the bad folks in town? And then, after a while, numbness. Like a part of me was buried with him. Nights, I'd wake up crying, calling out Pa, but no one answered. Ma tried to be both, but grief don't leave room for second chances. And as years rolled by, that hole, it turned into anger. Quiet, burning anger. At God, at doctors, at the world for taking the one solid thing I had.
And until this day, you were a normal boy, you would say.
Normal? Sure. As normal as a boy with no pa, with a mother working 2 shifts just to keep soup on the table could be. We moved, town to town, scraping by. I learned early, the world's got no soft spots for the weak. But I wasn't mean, not yet. Just watchful, hungry, trying to figure out how to keep breathing.
So your mom was trying to carve out a living here?
Yeah, she was. Was wasting her days in the laundry, washing other folks' dirt for a penny. Then this man showed up, Antrim, tall, wore a beard the color of rust, carried a guitar and promises, said he had land in Colorado. Ma, she looked at him like he was the last train out of hell, and I looked at him like he was just another mouth that needed feeding.
Yeah, maybe tell us the story of Ma and Antrim.
Ma was fixing a fence on a small patch of land we had rented when this cowboy came riding in. He stopped, saw her struggling with the wire, took off his hat and asked if she needed a hand. She shook her head no. Then he pulled out his guitar, strummed a few chords and started singing. Something about a woman waiting for a man who never came home. Ma, she just stood there, listening. And when he was done, he said, "That's how I feel every night." Turned out he was Antrim, Stephen, and that song, it stuck with her, married him the next spring.
And was Antrim a father figure for you?
Father figure, he was a name on a paper, a shadow that slept in our house. He'd come home drunk most nights, talk about getting rich in the mines while we scraped butter on bread. Told me be a man, but never taught me how. No hand on the shoulder, no talk by the fire. He'd whip me if I talked back, said it was for my own good. but I never got used to it. Never felt safe.
But your mom loved him, you think?
Yeah, I think she did. Or at least she loved the idea of him. A man to wake up next to. Someone to speak to when the silence got loud. I'd see them sometimes, late at night. She'd be mending his shirt. He'd be sitting there with that guitar, strumming low. Not a word between them. Just that tune. And her eyes, they'd go soft. Like for a second, she forgot how thin the walls were, how empty the pantry.
So it's almost like you were a little mad at him.
Mad? Yeah. He wasn't my pa, and every time he opened his mouth, I heard pa's silence. The man that should have been there, teaching me to ride, to shoot. Instead, I got this, stranger with a temper and a bottle. And ma, she chose him, left whatever ghost of my real father in the ground. And I got left behind. Again.
How did the story go on from there?
We had Joe now. Ma and Antrim had a boy. Small fella, barely learned how to walk. One winter, the coughing came. Started like a tickle, turned to blood on his little blanket. Antrim said he'd pull through, but I saw him packing his saddlebag. Ma, she sat by that boy night and day, spooning broth in his mouth, but he kept shrinking, like smoke. And one night, I woke up, and it was quiet, too quiet. Joe was gone. She held him, like she was still rocking him, and I just stood there, too small to curse.
Do you know exactly what happened to him?
Consumption took his lungs, like it did with so many out west. The air was dry, dust got everywhere, got inside his chest, turned every breath to knives. Ma tried everything, boiled sage, rubbed honey on his lips, even sent for a doctor once. But Antrim said no point wasting money on miracles. So he coughed his last one night in Ma's arms.
And did you already understand what was going on?
Yes, I did. I had seen animals die, seen men die in bar fights. But when it's your brother, it's different. You know, the world don't care if he's 2 or 20. Death don't ask permission. And I understood that our house, our little family, was one less. Again.
So you say his name was Joe.
Yeah, Joseph, little Joe. He was so small, his head fit in Ma's palm, and he had pa's hair, curly as rope. He used to grab my finger when I held him, squeeze it like I was his whole world. Then he got sick, and he couldn't squeeze no more.
I'm very sorry for your little brother. Though the story continued.
Thank you. He was a good little soul. But life don't pause for sorrow, and soon Ma started coughing too.
You are saying your mom got sick too?
Yeah, the same cough. Started after Joe was gone, like grief just settled in her chest. I remember she tried to hide it, cover her mouth when it took her. But one morning, I found blood on her handkerchief, bright as a sunset, and then she couldn't get up from bed no more. Antrim, he disappeared for weeks, going for help, he said. Came back empty-handed. She died 2 nights later. Just let go.
The loss of your mother must have really shook you.
It did, more than I ever let on. Ma, she was the last string holding me to something good. After her, I was just drifting. No home, no name, no place to go. Antrim, he left too. Said you ain't my blood. So I walked till my boots bled. And somewhere along the way, the kid in me died with her.
What do you think happened to Antrim?
Antrim, he rode off. Last I heard, he was still alive, prospectoring out in Arizona, probably still telling some woman he could give her the world. And every time he passes a graveyard, I hope he thinks about Ma and me and Joe and wonders why the devil ain't come collect him yet.
So when you finally lost your mom, do you think this is when everything got south?
Yeah, I do. When she died, all the light went out. Antrim took what little money we had left, said burial costs. I never saw him again. That night, in the empty house, I sat beside her body till morning, and when they came to take her away, I walked out that door and never looked back. The frontier was all I knew, and all I had.
It sounds like somehow you managed to get along.
Yeah, for a while. Had to. There was no one to tuck me in, no one to say, here's your supper. So I did what animals do. Fought for scraps. Learned who to smile at, who to punch, who to steal from. The frontier don't give. It only lends, and it always comes collecting.
What do you mean by that?
Everything costs, kid. Every bite of bread, every warm night, one way or the other, you pay. Sometimes with money, sometimes with blood, sometimes just with your name. The frontier don't let you keep nothing for free, and I paid more than most.
Do you know how old you were at this time?
15, give or take. Out west, birthdays ain't big deals. No cake, no songs. One day you're a boy, next day you wake up with a knife in your belt and blood on your hands, and suddenly you're a man.
But sure enough, with 15, you shouldn't be a man.
Out there, you don't get to choose. The law don't care. The guns don't care. You put a boy in a cage, or he turns into a wolf. Either way, he's gone. The first man I killed, I was 16. He drew on me over a card game. I didn't want to. My hand was shaking when I squeezed. But after I heard no thunder, just wind, and I knew Henry was dead. Only Billy stayed.
So you don't think there was another way?
Other ways. Sure. For other boys. In other places. But once you smell that gunpowder, once you feel the weight of a Colt in your palm, there's no farm for you, no school, no wife waiting supper. That door slams shut behind you, and the only thing keeping you alive is how fast you draw, how steady you aim, how little you sleep. So no, I don't think there was another way. Not for me.
And yet there was a ray of hope for you at some time.
Yeah, I drifted there on empty. Lincoln looked like everything a boy without roots could want. Wide streets, whiskey smell, folks who don't ask questions. I thought, I'll stay quiet, find work. Instead, I found Tunstall.
Yeah, maybe tell us your first few days and how you found Tunstall.
First day in Lincoln, I walked every street barefoot, begging for scraps. Slept in a hayloft, woke up with lice and a plan. Get work. Second morning, I seen Tunstall, English fella, hair like a paintbrush, riding a fine horse down the main drag. He saw me too, said, "Hey, kid, you look half dead. Want to earn supper?" I nodded.
So you trusted him right away.
Not completely. Trust's a slow-growing thing. But he looked clean, spoke soft, and he didn't ask questions. Gave me a bed and $1. Said he needed hands for his store. I figured I could always run, but I stayed.
So how did the story develop from that on?
Started with sweeping floors, feeding horses. Tunstall treated me square, gave me a bunk, a name, even a little pride. For a week I just watched him. Saw how he spoke to Mexicans, Apaches, even the bankers. No bowing, no sneering, just equal. Then one afternoon he hands me a broom and says, "You're too skinny, Billy. Eat something first." That broom turned into a rifle. That rifle turned into a ride. But that first week, I thought maybe I'd found the pa I never had.
So do you think Tunstall was the father figure you needed and wished for?
Maybe, for a spell. He had that thing in him, the one Antrim never had. A straight spine, a clean word. He'd call us to supper himself, and there'd be plates for everyone, no questions asked. He didn't yell, he didn't hit, and when he looked at me, it wasn't like I was a stray dog. He looked at me like I was his own, like he'd keep me.
So how did that make you feel, the feeling of becoming good or the potential of being good?
Like I could breathe again. Like someone saw past the dirt and the scars and said, "I want you on my side." For the first time in years, I went to bed without looking over my shoulder, woke up without tasting iron in my mouth. I even started shaving. Didn't last. But for those few months, I wasn't the kid. I was Henry again.
So he gave you a job. What was your job?
Sweep the store, feed the horses, and keep the riffraff out of the back door. I became his ears and eyes. If a Murphy Dolan hand spit tobacco on his porch, I told him I was small, could fit in anywhere.
So what was his business exactly?
Ran a store and a ranch, sold everything from flour to patent medicine, but his real trade was cattle. Bought thin cows off the reservation, fatted 'em up, sold 'em in town. The English way, he called it. Fair price, no tricks.
And do you think this was the reason why he got problems?
Yup. The Irishmen, Dolan and Riley, they ran the county like their own pocket. Had the army, the banks, the judges. Tunstall wanted in, fair and square. That alone was a death sentence.
So for you all, conflict was already on the horizon.
Yeah. The big boys don't like when a newcomer sells cheaper beans than them. They called it cutting throats. I call it surviving. But to them, competition was a bigger crime than murder.
So tell me exactly what the issue was here.
Well, Tunstall came to town with money from England, opened his store right across from the Murphy Dolan outfit. They had contracts with the army, sold 'em spoiled flour, sick beef, whatever kept profit. Tunstall, he sold good goods, cheap. Folks stopped buying from the Irish. That's when Dolan got mad. When mad turns to money, men draw iron.
So Dolan was just a handman for Murphy.
Yeah, but the worst kind. A henchman with a gun, a ledger, and the sheriff's ear. Murphy stayed clean, sat in his parlor, sipping brandy. Dolan did the hanging, the burning, the foreclosure. He had these eyes, like he enjoyed every cry. Said the frontier needs order, meant the frontier needed Dolan's order. Tunstall called him the devil's bailiff, and Dolan, he'd laugh, spit a brown arc on the ground, and say, "Exactly, boy," and the devil signs my check.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about Dolan.
Lawrence Murphy's man, short, Irish, mean eyes, had a temper like kerosene. Anything threatened his hold on Lincoln, he'd burn it down first and ask questions later. Folks whispered he had the governor's ear. Maybe. All I know is he didn't like Englishmen, didn't like honest prices, and he sure didn't like me.
And why do you think that was?
Me? I was just a stray dog Tunstall picked up, but I listened. I ran messages between him and McSween, his lawyer, and I could shoot straight enough to guard his herd. To Dolan, I was a threat because I wasn't scared. That made me dangerous.
So Dolan was the top dog in the city, you could say.
Yes, owned the sheriff, the deputy, even the preacher. If you were against Dolan, you were against God, or so they'd have you believe.
What do you mean Dolan had the sheriff and the deputy?
Oh, he had a sheriff's star on. But he wasn't no lawman, not the kind that protects widows and pins wanted posters. He was the kind that pins men to the wall and calls it justice. Murphy bought the sheriff's office, same as the store, put Dolan in charge, said keep the peace, meant keep me rich. So Dolan wore the tin, but he answered only to Murphy, and the only thing he arrested was anyone who said no.
And what was Murphy's plan?
Murphy wanted the county, all of it. Land, water, votes, even the graveyard. He'd started as a quartermaster in the war, learned how to move powder, horses, men. When the fight was over, he just kept moving. Bought the store, the saloon, the bank, made Dolan and the sheriff his arms. Every day, he'd send a rider out to a farmer, buy my beef or lose your fence. They paid. Next year it was buy my seed or lose your barn. They paid again. To the day he knocked on Tunstall's door, said, "Sell me your herd." Tunstall said no. That was his mistake.
Tell me the story, how, let's say, the fight began.
Started small. Tunstall bought 200 head off the reservation, cheaper than Dolan's price. His foreman drove him through town, right past the Irish store. Next morning, a Murphy hand shot one of Tunstall's horses for blocking the street. That was message 1. Message 2 came in a tin cup full of lead.
So there was already a shootout.
Nah, just one shot. But one shot from a Murphy gun was enough for Tunstall to ride to the fort and swear a warrant. He took me with him. Sheriff Brady, Dolan's puppet, laughed right in his face, said can't arrest a dead horse. That was when I knew it wasn't about cows no more.
You say the sheriff was corrupted by the Dolans.
Brady was in their pocket from the first day, would arrest a man for owning a crooked hat if Dolan said so. He didn't even bother hiding it, just laughed when we showed him the bullet.
After Sheriff Brady laughed at you, what happened next?
Well, we rode back, mad and empty-handed. Tunstall sent Dick Brewer out to gather a posse, real lawmen from the fort. Me, I rode to McSween, told him they were planning to hit the store. McSween just nodded, slow, said, then we'll beat 'em to the draw.
See, I don't know who Dick Brewer is, and I don't know who McSween is.
Dick Brewer, he was Tunstall's foreman, a calm, straight shooter, knew cattle like his prayers. McSween? That's Alexander McSween, a big city lawyer who'd come down from Kansas. Tunstall hired him to fight Dolan in court, and somewhere along the line, he fought with guns instead.
So they wanted to clarify in a legal way, but it never came to that.
Law was a fancy word here. Every petition we filed got lost in Dolan's desk. McSween wanted to drag it to court in Santa Fe, but they wouldn't let us reach the courthouse. So the court became the street. The judge, Black Robe, became the colt.
What happened?
Tunstall said enough is enough. Rode to the fort, got a warrant signed by a real captain. We brought it to Brady, who folded it into a cigarette and smoked it. We knew then they weren't playing. So next morning, we rode out to arrest Murphy's gunman, Jesse Evans and his bunch. That's when they bushwhacked us.
Okay, tell me what happened.
Tunstall, Brewer, and me left town on a cold morning, just 3 of us. We rode slow, rifles across the pommels. We saw dust ahead, Jesse Evans's bunch, waiting like a fence post. Brewer said turn back. Tunstall, he said no, we got the law. Then the first bullet took his horse. I hit the dirt. Next one took him.
Okay, tell us what happened.
We'd ridden a mile out of town when Jesse Evans stepped from behind a boulder. Had 6 men, all with Winchesters. Brewer whispered trap. Tunstall raised his hands, didn't even unbuckle his belt. Then somebody laughed. The first shot cracked the air like a whip. Tunstall's horse spun, dumped him in the mud. I saw the second slug hit his chest, third in the back when he tried to crawl. Just tried to crawl. I froze. Brewer pulled me behind a rock. We listened to them reload.
So first you didn't know what to do.
Yeah. For a heartbeat, the world was just sound. Horses screaming, lead whining past my ear. Then I remembered the rifle in my scabbard. I jacked a round in, aimed for the closest shadow, but Brewer grabbed the barrel. Said, not today, boy. Today we run. So I ran.
So you ran.
Yeah. We rode hell-bent back to town, bullets kissing our heels. But I kept looking over my shoulder, like if I blinked fast enough, I'd see Tunstall stand up, dust off, and say it was all a joke. He didn't.
When you arrived at the city, what happened next?
Rode straight to McSween's house. Door was locked, but I kicked it open like thunder. Told him they killed him, told him the names. He went white, then nodded, grabbed his coat, said we're gonna pay him back. I remember his hands shook, but his voice was iron. That was the first time I ever heard a man turn grief into a war cry.
Yeah, what was his plan, do you think?
He didn't have one, not yet. McSween was a lawyer. He knew words, but Tunstall's body was still warm. All he knew was payback. He said first we gather the regulators, Brewer's men. Then we march on the Irish store, and if Brady won't arrest Evans, we will.
And did it turn out like he thought it would?
Not even close. First, we rode in circles for days. Brady had the roads locked, soldiers watching like hawks. Then McSween said, hell with it, we're taking the jail. So Brewer pinned the star. I got a badge too. 10, but it felt hot. Thought justice would taste like iron, tasted like blood instead.
Tell me what happened.
We stormed Brady's office at dawn. Jesse Evans was inside, playing cards. We kicked the door down. Brewer shouted, "Freeze!" But Brady stepped out with a scattergun, said, "This is my town." Shots flew. I hit the floor. Brady caught lead right in the gut, dropped like a sack. Then Jesse ran. We chased. One of his men turned, fired. I fired back. His name was Morton. He didn't even scream, just stared at me, then fell.
It sounds to me like you had the stronger hand here.
We did, for 3 days. Felt like we ruled Lincoln. But stronger hand don't mean right hand. We hanged Morton from a beam, put his corpse in a wagon like meat. Folks watched, some clapped, some wept. I didn't feel strong. I felt like I'd traded one grave for another.
So you feared what exactly? That the army was coming?
Yeah. They were camped outside town. Any extra legal justice, and they could roll in at a whistle. After we strung up Morton, one of the soldiers rode up, said Colonel Dudley don't want no more hanging. But we knew. One wrong corpse, and they'd call us murderers, not regulators. I feared that, and I feared they were right.
So until this point in time, everything was legally okay from this perspective?
No. Hanging a man, even a bad one, isn't law. I mean, yeah, we had a badge. Yeah, we wore the star. But we answered to nobody but McSween, and he answered to his anger. The judge in Santa Fe would have spit on what we did. Still, out here, sometimes the line between law and revenge was drawn in blood, and nobody had a ruler.
And the sheriff, what did he do?
Brady? He died. The first volley got him square in the belly. He dropped his shotgun, looked at the red on his vest, laughed like it was the funniest joke he ever heard, said something about going home to Ireland. Then the light went out.
Who shot him?
I don't know. I'm sure it was Brewer or McSween, or maybe even me. We all emptied our guns when Brady stepped down. One of us took him down, and the rest didn't feel a thing about it.
So at this point, it must have been clear that you are on the wrong side, or on the losing side, let's say.
Not to me. To me, it was the opposite. We'd killed the sheriff. Dolan was next. The army, they were paid to stand around. I thought we had 3 more days, tops. Thought we were the good guys. But good guys don't shoot a lawman in the back, and that's when I knew. The mirror had cracks.
Exactly. You killed the sheriff. Do you think that was necessary?
Necessary? No. But the frontier don't care for need. Once the hammer falls, once Brady pointed that scattergun, we all knew what we were gonna do. And I didn't hesitate. That's what's scary, partner. Not that we killed a sheriff, but that I would have done it again.
It wouldn't have been the Dolans been enough.
Maybe. But Brady was Dolan. He just wore a badge instead of a hat. One man could do more damage with a warrant than with a Winchester. We wanted the snake. We got the head, too. Didn't realize the head wasn't the heart.
And who was the heart?
Maybe the whole damn territory was one big heart, pumping hate and lead. We cut off one vein, 2 more grew back.
What do you mean by that? Tell me the story.
The real enemy wasn't a man, it was a knot. You see, Dolan owned the army post. Colonel Dudley took his money, his women, his lies. When we went after Brady, Dudley marched in with 50 bluecoats, rifles up, and said, "Drop it." McSween thought he had friends. I thought we had guns. But guns rust faster than promises. They took our badges, locked us in our own jail. Then Dolan laughed behind those bars, 'cause he owned the key. That was the knot. Cut one thread, the rest just pulls tighter.
So when you were the regulators, you had keys to the prison?
No, we had the sheriff's keys. But Brady died, and his office got new locks the next morning. Before we could even open the door for Evans and his bunch, the army showed up, locked us inside our own jailhouse. Irony, ain't it?
Why do you call it your own jailhouse? Why do you think it was yours?
Because for those 3 days, the regulators were the law. Brewer was sheriff. I was deputy. Every badge we penned was borrowed, but the weight felt ours. When the army flipped it, we were the criminals in the very cage we'd sworn to keep empty.
I give you my point of view. When you killed Brady and when you killed the sheriff, that was one step too far. And then you haven't been You haven't been the regulators.
You're right. The minute Brady hit the ground, the star on my chest turned into a target. We weren't regulators no more. We were just boys with rifles and a dead man on our hands. And the world don't forgive boys who shoot sheriffs.
So tell me what the army did then.
They rode in at sunrise. 50 troopers, sabers out, Dudley at the head. Brewer tried to talk, said we were the law. Dudley just pointed at Brady's body, said murderers, and told his men to disarm us. By noon, we were behind bars, still with our boots on. By dusk, Dolan was walking free, smoking Brady's cigar.
So Dolan was still alive.
Yeah, Dolan lived through it all. He stood on the porch the day they dragged us to the jail, arms crossed, mustache twitching. Never drew iron himself. Didn't need to. He had Dudley. He had the army. He had money. And a long memory.
Yeah, and you wouldn't touch Dolan. Why?
Because killing Dolan wouldn't fix the Dolan system. He was like a snake with 10 heads. Cut one, another bites. In the army, Dudley would have called it murder. We'd have hung before the week was out. So we let him walk, grinning like a jackass. And every night he did, I watched him from behind bars and hated my own hands for being too scared.
Yeah, so you didn't kill Dolan, but you killed Brady, the sheriff.
Yes, and that's why the army came. Brady was their man on the inside. When he dropped, they had to pick a side. They picked the one that paid their wages. So we sat in the same cell as Jesse Evans, looking at each other like fools. 2 gangs, 1 cage. And Dolan, he didn't even come inside, just waited outside, hat in hand, calling for order.
Yeah, but Billy, here's my problem. If you shoot a sheriff and then you say the army comes and picks a side, who do you think which side they would be picking? For sure, the sheriff's side.
Of course, they picked the sheriff's side, the side that had always paid them. The army wasn't there for justice, they were there for their paycheck. And when Brady died, the paycheck got a new face, Dolan's.
Yeah, you may be right that they have paid them, but the army is there to enforce the law too. So when you shoot the law, the sheriff, it's clear that the army enforces the sheriff.
Sure, but out here, that word law was just a brand they slapped on whoever could afford to buy it. The army didn't care if Brady was crooked, only that he was wearing the badge. The second he fell, the brand moved on to the next customer. That's not enforce, that's auction.
Maybe that's how you have seen it.
Maybe, or maybe that's how it really was.
We'll never know.
Yeah, we never will. All I know is, that night behind bars, I traded my whole life for a ghost of a man who believed in me. And somewhere between the iron bars and the moon, I stopped caring if the law was right, only if it was mine.
Yeah, I understand that, and I find it kind of heroic what you did, but then I think you got a step too far.
Heroic? Maybe in the stories, but I didn't shoot Brady to be a hero, partner. I shot him because they killed Tunstall, and once you cross that line, the next one looks just as close. You know how it goes.
I know how it goes, but at some point in time it must have been clear to you what will happen.
Yeah, when I saw the army boots march in with Dolan behind them, I knew we were done. But Billy the Kid don't stop once he's started. He just keeps riding till the horse dies or the rope tightens.
Okay, so the army locked you in the jail. What happened next?
The colonel kept us in for 3 days. No trial, no papers, just bread, water, and Dudley's soldiers pacing the yard. Then Dolan, still free as wind, rode in with Jesse Evans's posse, got 'em all pardoned. Same night, they let Evans out first, said thanks for riding, boys. Then they unlocked our cell too, said Dudley says go home, no conditions. That was the day I stopped believing in law and started believing in payback.
So then you still held a grudge.
Yeah, grudge don't die easy out here. It festers like a bullet in the bone. But grudge don't make you shoot. Fear does. Fear of losing everything again. That makes a man pull the trigger.
Yeah, but you already have lost everything.
I did. But losing everything once teaches you it can happen again. And a man who ain't got nothing, he'll burn the world to keep the warmth from going cold.
After you got released, what did you do?
Left town that same night, rode for Blazer's Mill, hid with the old folks. For a month, I just stared at the walls, thinking. Then Dick Brewer found me, said we're not done. We had to get McSween out. That's when I rode back.
Okay, I can understand that you wanted to get your friend out. Exactly why do you think was McSween not released, but you were?
McSween had a price on him. Lawyer, big mouth. Dolan wanted him in court. He wasn't just a stray deputy. He was the mind behind it. Dudley wouldn't let him walk without making it look clean. Me, I was small fry. No papers on me yet. They let the gnat fly so the spider could stay stuck.
So you rode back to release him. What was the plan?
The plan was to ride in quiet, cut the chain on his window, and ride out quiet. Brewer had a wagon. I had a hacksaw. We dropped McSween at the ranch, let him think straight. Simple. Till Dolan's boys saw us on the ridge and started shooting.
So there was another shooting then. How was this turning out?
We barely got out alive. McSween slipped through the window just in time. Barely had his trousers on. We loaded him up. Brewer bleeding like a stuck pig on the driver's seat. Rode through the night with bullets whizzing past our ears. Thought we'd made it clean. Then we turned the bend, and there was Dudley, 50 soldiers, guns leveled like a firing squad. We stopped, horses snorting. McSween looked up at Dudley like he was waiting for a verdict. Colonel didn't even blink, just said, "McSween, you're under arrest for murder. The rest of you boys, get off my land." They took him, rode him straight through town in a wagon, wrists tied with his own tie. I watched from behind a cedar, hat low. Didn't even try. Knew that was the end. Knew my turn was coming.
Yeah, and your turn was?
My turn was to be the outlaw they all expected me to become. 2 weeks after McSween rode off to the penitentiary, Governor Wallace posted $500 reward on my head, dead or alive. Then Garrett came calling, said he'd bring me in quiet, no shootout, said he could fix it. I believed him, just like Tunstall believed Brady, and I ended up in the same dirt.
You have to tell me this story in detail.
It started with a telegram. Garrett found me at the adobe of an old widow in Fort Sumner, eating beans off a tin plate. Said, "Billy, I've got a friend in the governor's office, wants to talk." I trusted him. We'd ridden together before. He handed me a white handkerchief to wave if I wanted to surrender. Said, "Wear it on your saddle, I'll pick you up." 3 days later, Pat rode up alone. No soldiers, no irons, just him and me. We sat on the porch. He lit a smoke. I took one too. "Governor Wallace wants to hear your side. Says he'll grant amnesty if you turn state's evidence against Dolan and Dudley." Sounded like freedom. I laughed. Said, "All I've ever done is run. Let's run toward a pardon for a change." We shook on it. That night, he slipped me a .38. Said, "Keep it, just in case." We left at dawn, crossed the river quiet. He kept looking behind his shoulder. I asked why. He said, "Nobody likes a turncoat, Billy. Not Dolan, not even me." We got as far as Stinking Springs. There, behind a busted wagon, Dolan's men, the Seven Rivers crew, were waiting. Garrett shouted, "Spread 'em." I did. Hands high, white rag on my shoulder. They tied us like pigs, said we were both worth 500. Turns out the handkerchief wasn't a flag. It was a signal for Garrett to catch me, not to save me. When they loaded me on the train, he rode beside me in the boxcar. Didn't look at me once. I asked why. He finally said, "I had to do it, kid. You're the last loose end." When the train hit Lincoln, folks lined the platform to see the kid. The rope wasn't ready yet, but I could see it swaying from the tower like a lullaby. I turned to Pat and said, "Thanks for the smoke." He just stared out the window. Didn't sleep after that. Just listened to the rails clack like bones.
Is this where the story ends?
Not quite. The real end came on a dark night, inside the McSween house. You see, I was never meant to ride to the penitentiary. They wanted me dead before the trial. And Garrett, he knew. They locked me in, set the place ablaze, flames licking at the windows, smoke in my lungs. I crawled to the door, kicked it once, twice. Third time, I stepped out with a pistol in each hand. 4 guards stood waiting. First one fell before he raised his rifle. Second one screamed, "He's out!" Third missed me. I didn't. The fourth, Pat Garrett. We locked eyes. He didn't fire, just lowered his gun and said, "Finish it, Billy." I couldn't. Not him. So I ran. Again. past the fire, past the town, past every damn thing, till a year later, in that same dusty street, he found me, and this time he did shoot. But that's tomorrow's ghost. Tonight, I'm still running.
So you ran a year. Where did you hide?
Hid with an old lady in Fort Sumner, Mrs. Bodra. She knew my ma, cooked me Irish stew. I grew a mustache, learned to play the fiddle, even got a girl named Polita Maxwell. Folks thought I was working a farm. Pat thought I was dead, but ghosts don't die twice.
So at this point in time, did you think you would make it? I mean, settle down probably.
Yeah. Some nights I sat on the porch with Polita and thought, maybe this is what home feels like. Dogs barking, cattle lowing, no one saying my real name. I was planting beans, for Christ's sake. Thought if I kept my head low, the past would forget me. Turns out the past remembers everything.
But you would have been open to forget the past.
Maybe. The heart forgets what the hand remembers. I could plant corn, mend a fence, kiss a girl goodnight. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Tunstall on the ground. Heard Brady's laugh die out. So I'd wake up reaching for a rifle that wasn't there. The past ain't what happened. It's what never left you.
What do you think made that you never could accept how Tunstall died?
'Cause he died for me. Not for cattle, not for McSween. He died 'cause he tried to stand up, and no one stood up for him. That ain't right. And no whiskey, no girl, no warm supper can wash that out of your bones.
So it wasn't the death of your dad, it wasn't how your mom died or that she died, it was Tunstall.
Tunstall wasn't the first, no. But he was the first who mattered. Ma's death was a long, slow goodbye. Pa's was a question mark. But Tunstall, he looked at me one day and said, "I'm proud of you, son. A stray nobody like me." And then he got gunned down like a dog. That one stuck, like a thorn that never comes out.
And yet you must have known that you would risk it all for him.
Yes, I knew. But I didn't think. That's the thing. When the bullets flew, the math stopped. I wasn't counting chances. I was counting heartbeats. And his last one was worth more than all mine.
You see, I think so too. You didn't thought that fully through, because I think you have been on the losing side all along.
Maybe. But out here, losing isn't the part that kills you. It's realizing you were always meant to lose, and then keep walking anyway.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. So you could have just accepted it, what happened, because there's no other way to handle it and come out alive.
Maybe, but accepting it means they won twice. Once with the bullet, once with your silence. I'd rather die with my boots on than live on my knees, partner. Some choices you can't walk away from, not if you want to look in the mirror.
If you are dead, you cannot look into the mirror either.
True. But if you're dead, you don't need to look anymore. The mirror don't lie, but the grave don't talk. And the grave, my friend, is where the story finally ends. No more running, no more pretending, just silence. And silence is honest.
This one I agree. So tell us the rest of the story.
So after Garrett let me walk out that burning house, I ran like hell. Took a horse from the blacksmith, left Paulita crying. Rode north for a month. Changed names like shirts, Jim, Anderson, whoever. Thought I could outrun death if I kept moving. But Pat Garrett don't forget. One night in Fort Sumner, he walked through that door. No posse, no warrant, just him and his .44. I was reaching for my coffee when the first shot took my chest, second in the back as I turned. Died on the porch I once kissed her on. Guess even ghosts gotta come home someday.
So he really made up his mind to find you.
Yeah. Said the governor wanted me dead, quiet. That the stories had gotten too big, too romantic. That some kid might try to be me one day. And Pat, he couldn't let that happen. So he rode alone, just him and the promise of $500. Shot me like he owed it to the world.
So what was his motivation, you think?
About what?
To find you, because he must have been looking for over a year.
He didn't look the whole time.
First few months, he was busy collecting his reward, drinking it away. Then Garrett ran for sheriff. Won easy. Thought that'd shut the door. But legends don't die easy. Some newspaper in Chicago called me Robin Hood. Then he couldn't sleep. Started asking around. Found Paulita. She told him I liked coffee strong, boots old. And one cold night, he just knew. Rode straight to Fort Sumner. Walked in like he was expected.
So do you think he was proud of what he did?
No, he never was. That's why he drank himself blind for months after. Pat Garrett wasn't a hero. He was a man who did what the world wanted and hated the echo. Last time I saw him, before the bullet, he whispered sorry into the dark. And I whispered back, me too.
And have you been sorry?
Every damn day. Ain't that the joke? The kid who never backed down. Now all he wants is a quiet room and forgiveness.
It feels like you kind of knew that all along, or you maybe wanted it, or you had a hint of knowing it.
Knew it? Yeah. But knowing and walking are two different horses. One thing I learned from the grave, you can't outrun fate if you keep feeding it bullets. Maybe I kept pulling triggers just to hear the last note. Maybe I wanted the story to end, just on my own damn terms.
But was it on your terms?
No, it wasn't. I planned on a big last stand, go down shooting, maybe take Pat with me. Instead, I died begging for a cup of coffee in a friend's kitchen. That ain't heroic. That's just sad.
Okay, Billy, if you look back, what would you change? Or is there something you would have changed?
I'd have said no to Tunstall that first day. Walked on by the store, kept sweeping some other man's porch. Maybe he'd still be alive. Maybe I'd still be Henry McCarty, the kid who shines boots. Maybe I'd still have a mirror I could look into without flinching.
Do you think Tunstall was the failure?
Failure? No. He was the only thing I ever did right. I failed him. That's what stings. He gave me hope. I gave him a grave.
Why do you think it was your fault?
'Cause I brought the war to his door. I was the messenger boy, the spy, the reason he trusted too much. If I hadn't told him the names, hadn't pushed him to get that warrant, he wouldn't have ridden out. He would have locked the store, poured whiskey, laughed at the rain, and I'd be nobody, alive.
So sometimes you do everything right, but it's all wrong.
Yeah.
Do you think Tunstall would have chosen different?
No. John Tunstall was a stubborn Englishman. Once his mind was set, the world could burn for all he cared. He wanted Lincoln straight, not bent to Dolan's knee. So he'd ride that ridge again, and I'd still be the fool to follow him.
So you think Tunstall knew this setup all along, and he was fully aware of what would happen at the end?
Yeah, I think he knew the odds, the way a farmer knows the storm. He just didn't believe it had hit his roof. But deep down, in that quiet English smile, there was steel. Steel that said even if he lost, the crooked would pay. That's why I can't hate him. He died for something, even if I was too stupid to see the rope before I kicked the chair.
Yeah, I get that. I think you have been naive at this point.
Naive? Sure. But naive ain't the worst thing, partner. At least the naive believe the world can be better. The smart ones, they just watch it burn from the porch, calling it fate. And me, I'd rather die a fool than live a cynic.
I fully agree. That's a decision you have to make. So, and where did they bury you?
In Fort Sumner, old Catholic cemetery, just a cheap pine box, no stone. Folks say Garrett paid for it, then got drunk so hard he forgot where he put the body. Some say I was thrown in the river. Some say I still ride the plains at night. All I know is the ground was cold, and the last thing I saw before the lid shut was the moon, full, like a witness.
Billy, if you look back, do you think there's one thing that could have made a big difference to turn everything to the better?
If Ma hadn't coughed that last time, if I hadn't left that tenement door open that night, One breath earlier, and I'd still be Henry. Everything else, Tunstall, Dolan, the rope, started from there. A single cough, a single boy frozen in snow.
If you could have wished for your life, what would it look like then?
Quiet. A little spread west of Lincoln. Horse that knew me by my whistle, not my gun smoke. Maybe a wife who'd laugh at my bad Spanish. Kids asking, "Why's the sky big, Pa?" Instead of, "Why's the sheriff knocking?" And when folks rode by, they'd say, "That's Billy Antrim, steady man, fair hand. Not a legend, not a killer, just home."
Have you ever really tried to be that man?
Tried? Once. When they buried me, I thought, maybe now. No guns, no running. But habits die harder than men, and legends, they find you, even after the grave. No, that man only lives in the wishing, not the doing.
And what would be your profession of choice?
Farmer. Get dirt under my nails instead of blood. Watch corn grow like time used to. And if the sheriff ever came, I'd just hand him a jug of cider and say, "Corn's good this year." That'd be work, real work.
Okay, I get that. What do you think would your mother's choice of profession be, or wish of choice for profession be for you?
Ma would have wanted a tailor for her boy. Clean collars, steady hands, or maybe a shop clerk, somewhere she could tug at my ear and say, "Henry, did you shine them boots?" Anything that kept me off a saddle, anything that kept me hers and alive.
But do you think she had a foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing? She had fear. Ma, she wasn't no oracle, just a woman who read wanted posters like bedtime stories. That's how pretty boys in, Henry. Never said names, just tapped the ink. Every time she did, I heard it, like a bullet already fired.
She said what exactly?
Boys like you, Henry, if you stray, they'll measure your worth by inches, not years. Never spelled it out, but when she coughed blood on the sheets, she still looked at me, like she was watching me right away already.
What do you think did she see in you to make her think that?
She saw the spark, not the fire, but the one that won't quit. The same one that made me steal apples at 5, that made me talk back to teachers, that made me ride a horse before I could spell. She knew, mothers know, that spark don't die. It just waits, and when the wrong wind blows, it lights the whole damn prairie.
Yeah, and the spark's name was Ambition.
Ambition. Nah, more like hunger. Not for money, that's easy. For recognition. Not to be rich, just to be seen, without the mask. Just Henry. That ain't ambition, that's lonely. Ambition wants a throne. I just wanted somebody to remember the right name.
And where did this wish come from? When did it develop?
When Dad walked out the door, I was 3, maybe 4. Door closes, and suddenly I'm the man of the house.
So, but you must have felt that it was impossible to reach that.
Felt like shooting for the moon with a slingshot. Knew it every morning I woke up, but feeling it and admitting it, those are 2 different cages, and I was never good at locking myself up.
Billy, if you look back on what you experienced and how it ended, what advice would you give to people these days?
Look, life don't hand you choices the way they paint 'em in books. Out west, it was kill or be killed. But now, you're lucky. You've got roads, got schools, got folks that'll listen before they draw. So, hold on to who you love. Don't let money or power whisper louder than blood. And when a good man comes along, like Tunstall did for me, don't turn away. Most of all, keep your word. Once it's gone, you ain't got nothing. And someday, some kid'll be reading about you.
Make sure what they say ain't all smoke. And if you ever feel that hole inside, don't fill it with lead. Fill it with something honest.
Billy, we come to the end of the podcast. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet?
Ain't that the truth? You know, most folks want to hear the shootouts, the chases, how many men I killed, but no one ever asks what I miss. I miss the smell of Ma's coffee. I miss Joe's giggle, sharp as a nail, but sweet. I miss the way Tunstall used to say my name like it was clean. I miss the quiet mornings when the sun came up slow and the world hadn't decided what it wanted from me yet. Before the gun, before the name, that's what I'd tell listeners. The loudest thing I ever heard was silence, and I ain't heard it since. So if you've still got it, quiet, clean, soft, don't trade it. Not for silver, not for stories, not for a legend. Thanks for listening, partner. And if you hear boots on the porch at night, don't open.
Yeah, I'll do. Is this the last sentence of the podcast?
You're welcome, partner. And thank you for asking, for listening. Most folks just throw stones. You gave me an ear. That's more than Garrett ever did. Now, I'll ride off into the sunset, or whatever passes for it now. See ya on the other side.
See you.
See ya, friend. Doors creaking shut.